Vols Society Live right here on this lovely Wednesday night. My name is David Morrison. I am the Vols Society lead analyst here on the Vols Society Network. Don't forget, we're all over social media tonight as you're watching our 2022 Tennessee football preview. We've waited a long time to do this episode right here on Vols Society on this Wednesday night, and you're watching us live on Facebook.com/UT YouTube.com/Vols Society, and on Twitter @SocietyVol. Please give these social media sites a follow, a like, and get all the latest from the University of Tennessee from your friends at Vols Society. Like I said, this is it. We are finally breaking down this 2022 Tennessee football team. Our founder, Brad, is in the chat room right now. He says it's almost time for football time in Tennessee. 22 days away, the official start. And like I said, we're gonna break it all down. Like I said, I know some of our passionate listeners on Vols Society Live every Wednesday night has heard a lot about this football team for the last several months. So it's going to be kind of a lot of repeat stuff. But like I said, we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about the players. We're going to talk about the schedule, how many wins Tennessee can get this year. Can Tennessee get back to the top of the SEC? We're going to break it all down. Like I said, and of course, this is also your show too. So like I said, the chat room is open. Our founder Brad's in there getting started. So leave your comments, questions throughout the show. I'll try to read as we go along throughout the evening. The viewership is climbing. I love it. Let's talk about the 2022 Tennessee football team, University of Tennessee Volunteers team we love passionately. And, let's go ahead and break it down. So, like I said, Tennessee coming off last year, it was a 7-6 season last year. Got robbed out of the Music City Bowl, but that's another discussion for another day. Like I said, this Tennessee team from last year overseeded expectations under first-year head coach Josh Heupel. Like I said, last year at this time we were talking about, how is the team looking, and like I said, we saw what happened. The offense took off really explosive. We blew out some opponents. The defense was a little questionable at times last year. And hello to Ricky chiming in. He says how the defense is looking. We're going to break down this defense. I think it's going to be a little bit better than it was last year, but there are still some question marks along the way. Like I said, coming off the 7-6 season, now we're in year 2 of the Josh Heupel era. A lot of players returning back. Brad's saying he's heard the defense looking pretty good. Like I said, a lot of players coming back, including our quarterback, Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker coming off of a 2,900-yard passing game last year, 31 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, did not turn the ball over a whole lot. And keep in mind, he didn't even start until like the Tennessee Tech game last year. So, we had the Joe Milton experience at the beginning, but that was quickly pulled. And Hendon Hooker took off from there. And as I call him, the maestro of the offense, and the offense runs through QB5. Like I said, and even Hendon Hooker, like I said, he led the team in rushing attempts last year. So I expect to see some of that this year. Like I said, Josh Heupel is not afraid to use Hendon Hooker as a dual threat quarterback. Paul chiming in said Hooker for Heisman. He could be a dark horse Heisman going into next year. Like I said, to me, he's got to accomplish a couple of things. I think he needs to get over that 40 touchdown plateau. He's going to have to beat a Georgia or Alabama to get to a discussion. But you never know what's going to happen. Like I said, the offense is run through Hendon Hooker. Like I said, last year, 2,900 yards passing, 616 yards rushing himself. Like I said, he had 36 total touchdowns just for him. And like I said, with the transfer portal really being implemented in the last couple of years of college football, Tennessee hit the jackpot with him. You got a veteran quarterback. He started a lot of games at Virginia Tech, done some success out there, but now he's a completely different quarterback since he's arrived in Knoxville, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Brad says, which game this year on our schedule do you think is the number one and most important win for us, and why? I think it comes down to the Florida game. And I'm going to break down the schedule a little bit later, but definitely the Florida game coming up on September 24th. Like I said, you get Pittsburgh on the 10th at Pittsburgh. That's a big game, too. Like I said, you're getting the revenge from the loss last year. You're going on the road, but I think Pittsburgh lost a lot of players last year, and I'll break them down in a moment. But I think that game, September 24th, in Neyland Stadium against Florida, is a big key game for us. I was kind of looking at the stats from last year and trying to compare it to this year, trying to weave it in there. Brad says Pitt is number 2 and 3 for me in order. That works, and he agrees with me on the Florida game. Paul says if he doesn't make at least the Heisman list, we ride. I'm sorry, but I don't think Bryce Young is all the hype. Well, in my opinion, his teammate was a better player, Will Anderson. But the Heisman Trophy list has always been kind of quarterback heavy. But we're not previewing Alabama necessarily tonight. All right, so looking at the stats, Tennessee last year averaged 39 points per game last year, which is 7th nationally, 2nd in the SEC. They were 11th in the nation rushing, which I totally forgot about that. And I was watching Late Kick Live with Josh Pate, and Tennessee, like I said, finished 11th in the nation in rushing. And we talked about how the running backs were banged up last year, but they still put up over 217 yards on the ground. And this, like I said, this offense that we run is not an air raid offense, it's a spread type of offense. It's not an air raid where we're throwing 50, 60 times a game. It's a very balanced attack. It's just the tempo is up. And like I said, the running backs is going to be a key factor this year, and Tennessee wants to improve that. And it starts with Jabari Small. Jabari Small last year finished the team in rushing yards at 796 and 9 touchdowns, averaged 5.6 yards per carry. But he was banged up throughout the rest of the year. Can you imagine a healthy Jabari Small? If he can put up those bigger numbers, that's going to be huge. We talk about Jalen Wright. He's a freshman last year. Now he's coming in as a sophomore. He finished 4th in rushing yards last year, just over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You look at the rest. Brad says he's hearing Jabari Small looking incredible right now. That's great. Like I say, because we're going to need everybody. And we talked about this last week during Josh Heupel's press conference going into fall camp that Lanique Whitehead is out for the year. Lanique Whitehead last year finished 5th on the team in rushing, the big bruising running back. So now with him, with Whitehead out, you bring in now transfer Lynn J. Dixon, who was also at West Virginia during spring practice, and now he's on at Tennessee. That brings a veteran running back who played a lot of games at Clemson, played some big-time games. Like I said, he's going to have to learn the playbook very fast. But I think having Lynn J. Dixon in that running back room with a couple of younger running backs, Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, and the freshmen Justin William Thomas and Dylan Thompson, that's going to help out. Paul says, so Hooker and Milton are both coming in as seniors. Do you think Milton will be getting any game time? If he does, it's going to be mop-up. I don't see Josh Heupel pulling him and Hooker out to throw with Joe Milton in any playbooks, unless they're going to do some sort of a gimmick type of like a wildcat offense with him. But honestly, I think Hendon Hooker's in there every play unless we're up by 30 points. Joe Milton. I don't see any quarterback solution a whole lot. Like this is some sort of a gimmick play that they're going to do. Brad says, if they're trying to throw the football over the mountains, then Milton will come in. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm excited to see what these running backs can do. Paul says his name has a gander. Yeah. I'm excited to see what the running backs can do. Like I said, I totally forgot. Last year they finished 11th in the nation in rushing yards. Of course, the military schools were 1-2. Army and Air Force, Navy. Anyway, I digress. Wide receivers. So, Hendon Hooker's favorite toy, Cedric Tillman returning back to Tennessee. That's huge for us. I think Tillman announced he was coming back before Hendon Hooker announced. But you bring it back, Cedric Tillman, 64 catches, 1,081 yards, 12 touchdowns, average 16 yards per catch. To me, he's a first-team All-SEC wide receiver. Uh, like I said, I'm very excited to have Cedric Tillman back because you lose Velus Jones Jr. to the NFL last year. Not only he was your number two wide receiver, he lined up in the slot, and he was also your returner in the special teams game last year. So like I said, you bring a go-to guy. Like I said, Hendon Hooker loves going to Cedric Tillman, obviously. And who's going to emerge as the number two, three, four, five receiver? Um, like I said, Jalen Hyatt last year, he had a lot of pop and praise because he had a pretty good. Well, he had a really good freshman season for a very complete team in 2020. He was one of the highlights, and it looked like he was going to kind of emerge as that number one wide receiver, but never really got going. And like I said, the emergence of Velus Jones Jr. and Devontae Payton kind of overtook his targets last year. But I think Jalen High can be a really good wide receiver. You also bring in another transfer in Brew McCoy from USC. Like I said, he's still trying to get back into football shape for the most part. Like I said, I know there was some talk that he was out of shape, but he actually had an injury in the off season or in his time between USC and Tennessee, like I think it was a hip procedure. So, it's going to take some time for Bruno McCoy to get going. It's going to be interesting to see does Josh Heupel, Alex Golis, the offensive coordinator, puts him in the slot where Velus Jones was last year, or really who's going to be kind of in that slot receiver role. That's going to be a big question mark for me. It's not really a negative thing, but it's like you can put so many good pieces in that slot position and do a lot of damage with. I mean, obviously Cedric Tillman's going to be on the outside, and then who else may go in there? Paul says, I say Jimmy Callaway might be in there as well as a number two, number three receiver. He played a little as a freshman. Yeah, you got the two Jimmys, Jimmy Callaway and Jimmy Holiday. It seems like Callaway is progressing more than Jimmy Holiday. I think Jimmy Callaway could be a part of that, part of that receiving core. You also got Ramel Keaton. Not a lot of people talking about him. He's kind of floating under the radar, having a good fall camp. Walker Merrill, freshman last year, kind of emerged as a sophomore. I don't know if he will see a lot of playing time, but I think he'll come in, plays certain plays at a time. The tight ends kind of switching over to them a little bit, and then I'll go back to the freshman wide receivers. But Jacob Warren, a local kid from Knoxville, had a good season as far as the tight end goes. He only had 18 catches for 179 yards last year, but 3 touchdowns, and he was definitely a red zone threat for the most part. It seemed like Hendon Hooker felt very comfortable going to Jacob Warren or Princeton Fant in the red zone, and I really, like I said, having those big tight ends that can fly down the field definitely, like I said, can make the Tennessee offense very explosive. Like I said, Princeton Fant, he's a senior this year, and so is Jacob Warren. And then next year you get somebody like Ethan Davis, even better. Brad says, guys, I think we're going to be a force this year. I really expect big things from this team, possibly 10-2 season. That's where he's going with. I'll give you kind of my prediction of the season a little bit later on. It's kind of close for Brad. Like I said, the offense looks, for the most part, very explosive. There are, I won't say major question marks, but definitely some little itty bitty question marks as far as like where does some of these players kind of line up. But I still think go there. What's the story on this Brew McCoy? Is he kin to Colt? No, he's not kin to Colt McCoy. So Brew McCoy was a former 5-star wide receiver, originally committed to Texas, then decommitted and went to USC. Played for Clay Helton at USC. Got banged up a little bit like his freshman year, kind of missed some time, and then he had an off the field trouble. uh, with some, I think it was a domestic issue, which all that ended up getting cleared, but he ended up getting suspended from the team. And basically, when all that was going on, he decided to go to hit the transfer portal, just kind of a refresh. And like I said, he came to Tennessee. I know there was some clearance to try to get him to Tennessee. He ends up coming to Tennessee. He's still not cleared by the NCAA to play for us, which how the NCAA does when they're figure out who's going to play or not. So he's still technically not eligible for us, but even though he's on the team, he can practice. It's kind of another story. But Brad says he moved around in college, but I think he could be an asset for a team. Yeah, like I said, he's a former five-star wide receiver, really tall guy. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", like 210 pounds. So like I said, I think he can be, like I said, Brad said, an absolute asset. Paul says absolutely. That's all said to me. Yeah, yeah, and like I said, and of course Bayless used to play for him before Bayless transferred to Tennessee. So there's a connection even though Bayless is not. Offensive line, we'll talk about this. So let me get to the freshman wide receiver because I promised that first. So the freshman wide receiver I'm very excited about. Andy's in here. He says, "Go Big Yarn DFLs." Yeah, good to have you, Andy. Uh, talk about the freshman wide receivers. I am stoked for number 83, Mark West Squirrel White. Squirrel White, I'm very excited about. Squirrel White's like 5'6", 170 pounds. But I watched some of his highlights in high school. I'm very excited about him. He reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles, who used to play at Kansas State and played for the Chargers and a bunch of other teams. A small running back, but very explosive. Uh, I'm excited about what he can do. If I was Josh Heupel playing Monday morning quarterback, I I would put him maybe as a kind of like what Georgia did with Isaiah McKenzie, just kind of like run around the field a little bit and do some sweeps and stuff. Brad says, "Have you heard about Squirrel? He has been the top from camp." Yeah, so Squirrel White during fall camp has been outrunning some of our DBs, our starting DBs. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. It shows the talent of Squirrel White, but also kind of concerns me that he's not very good. And yeah, Jason just said he can be special in the return game. I think that's where I would put him in the return game. Like I said, I don't know who's. I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to be in the return game. I'm reading from Apple and Sports. They got the two Jimmys in the kickoff return, punt return. But I would have Squirrel White come out, especially on kickoff returns, because you don't see a ton of kickoff returns return out because of the touchback rule. So kind of get him in there. Uh, but like I said, get him comfortable in the return game or in field of play in general, kind of get the nerves out. But then when he can take off, maybe you can surprise people with his speed. Like I said, Paul says they have some big old boys on the offensive line. They range from 6'3" to 6'7". I'm looking forward to Cooper Mays. Yeah. Switching over to the offensive line here. Like Paul said, Cooper Mays, like I said, the brother Cade Mays started last year, did get hurt. He is right now listed as the starting center. I think Cooper can be a all SEC offensive lineman if he stays healthy. Like I said, the big concern for me for this offensive line is pass protection. Can they protect Andrew Hooker, even though he is a dual threat guy, but a little bit better protection for Hooker than some better stats. But Darnell Wright, like I said, he's been around for a long time. Former five-star offensive lineman. Remember, he came in at the same time as Wanye Morris, right at the start of the previous coaching regime. And Brent says still don't have a left tackle yet, huh? Yeah, that's kind of been the battle at camp. Is left tackle. Like I said, Darnell Wright, he'll stick in his right tackle position that he's been the last 3 years, which I'm fine with. Jerome Carvin, kind of an underrated player. Will start at left guard. Cooper Mays will be at center. Right guard, you got Spraggins, and then like I said, left tackle is just like I said, kind of in the air. They tried Gerald Minsky at left tackle during fall camp. They've also had remember who else had J.J. Crawford, a young player. He was kind of starting at left tackle. I don't know how I feel about that. You also got somebody like Jeremiah Crawford, Ollie Lane, a couple of seniors there. Kingston Harris, I know they haven't had a lot of playing time. Even Dane Davis, which bless his heart, he got injured every game last year. I like the kid, but man, it feel like he was always hurt every game or getting hurt. So that's going to be a big key concern right there, especially like I said, you know, in a hooker, a right-handed quarterback, the blind side, like they don't want him to get blasted every time, even though a hooker may have some spidey senses. He's a little bit of a spider man, but that's going to be to me that's the big key weakness is that left tackle. Like I said, who can they lock down? Uh, you know, I don't see them moving Darnell Wright over the left tackle. I know Athlon has him as left tackle, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, he's been at right tackle since his freshman year. I don't need to change that. But who can step up? Maybe can you move a Jerome Carvin over the left tackle or one of them? I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. Brad says, yeah, Darnell is going to stay at right. But that's kind of the offense in general. I really like this offense. It's very, like I said, it is very explosive. Almost averaged 40 points a game last year. I think they can still put up those type of numbers again this year. Like I said, now this is year two in the Josh Heupel system, and a lot of these schools are now kind of figuring out the offense. It's going to be a little bit more familiar, even though there's been some coaching changes to at least one team, so they're going to be, not expecting what we're going to bring them their way, but it's going to be very interesting to see what this team can do. All right, let's switch over to the defensive side. We had somebody talk about the defense earlier. Like I said, I think this defense is going to be better. I know last year was ugly at times. Like I said, last year ranked at 90th over in scoring defense last year. The rushing defense was in the top 60, but the passing defense was abysmal last year. 122nd in the nation, gave up over 270 yards through the air last year. We'll get to these in just a moment. Brad said the defensive ends are strong. Yes, I love the defensive ends led by Byron Young. I love his story. We talked about it so many times. The former assistant Dollar General Manager, trying to pursue that dream to get back into college football. Tennessee found out about him. We signed him up, gave him a scholarship, and he's just exceeded expectations. I love Byron Young. I'm so glad the media kind of picked him as a preseason first team. I think he deserves it. He doesn't get a lot of praise compared to a lot of the offensive stars, but like I said, he's definitely a big bright spot. I love Byron Young, number 6. Tyler Barron returns back. It looked like he was going to hit the transfer portal, but changed his mind and comes back. And I think you're going to have a good 1-2 combination on the ends with Tyler Barron and Byron Young. Some of the backups, mainly there's not a lot of backups on the ends, maybe like a Roman Harrison. But, in the middle, you got Latrell Bumpus. You got Amari Thomas, who played a lot last year. Here's some good things about Juwan Mitchell. Here's some good stuff about Juwan Mitchell. I know he plays linebacker, but there was a lot of hype on Juwan Mitchell last year. Like led the team in tackles in Texas, hit the transfer portal, came to Tennessee, and he just kind of came in, a little bit out of shape, not healthy enough. But now I'm hearing he's the healthiest he's been in 2 years, even going back to the days of Texas. Excited to see what Juwan Mitchell can do. Dejon Terry, another former transfer from Kansas. I think he can be really good for us. Elijah Simmons also brings some depth. Paul says Theo and Alante are some big shoes to fill at safety. And Brad says, yeah, we have some solid guys. Also, Jeremy Banks should have a great season too. Yeah. Switching over to linebackers, Jeremy Banks. Like I said, he's kind of had an up and down career in Tennessee that's been well documented. But I'm excited to see Jeremy Banks, in his final season, really have a strong season. I would love for him to get an All SEC honors at the end of the year. Kevin joined in. Welcome, Kevin. Says, yeah, we need to push everyone around like we own them. Absolutely. And, that's the thing is it felt like that defense at times played aggressively, but, we got to be mean. We got to be nasty. Like I said, we got a mean, nasty offense. Can we transition that over to the defense? Well, I think we got some dogs on that defense that can be beneficial there. Brad says, looking at the Florida tickets on StubHub, unreal prices. Yeah. Ticketmaster's not much better, I'll just say that. Looking at the rest of the linebackers, Aaron Beasley, I like Aaron Beasley. Like I said, when Jawan Mitchell went out with his injuries last year, Aaron Beasley really emerged as a good linebacker for us and played very well towards the tail end of the season. Like I mentioned, Jawan Mitchell, Stolen Page comes back for us. Like I said, I think the linebackers have some depth, and like I said, going back to spring ball, we were kind of concerned about the depth on the defense, but it seems like going from spring through a little bit of summer workouts into fall camp, it seems like that's not really been a big issue. And here's some good stuff from everybody. And like I said, happy for Jawan Mitchell having a great fall camp. All right, now let's switch over to the biggest question for me throughout this whole team is the defensive backs. I already mentioned, giving up over 270 yards in the air last year is just kind of brutal at times. And I think we really some games last year where we should have won hurt us because of our defensive backs, like Ole Miss, Pittsburgh, Purdue. Just those are three games we probably should have won. Not definitely that Purdue game. But you look at the DBs starting on the corners. You do lose Alontae Taylor. He's off to the NFL. And now you got some question marks. Like I said, who's going to kind of fill Alontae Taylor's spot? You got Warren Burrell coming back for his senior year, and I've even meant this definitely a lot. I think I'm not a big Warren Burrell fan. I think at times he gets going by a lot. Hopefully he can have a great season. I don't want to see him fail. I don't want to see anybody fail. But I think, like I said, I want to see Warren Burrell do very well. Like I said, Paul says trading Flowers will knock down and catch everything. Brett says backs are the most crucial for you. In my view, this year we need these guys are on the game. And Johnny joining in. Hey, Johnny says hopefully the defensive line is good enough and to help out a weaker group at the back end. Yeah, I think the defensive front is definitely strong for this defense. We mentioned Warren Burrell. It looked like Kamal had, and we'll talk about Kamal had in the transfer from Auburn from last year. Played in the bowl game. Looked like he was having a great fall camp. Like we heard some great stuff the first 2 days, and then he ended up getting hurt during fall camp. Hopefully he can be ready to go. A lot of people penciling him at corner. I want to see him do very well. But like I said, Warren Burrell and Kamal Haddon, that's going to be two important players for us as far as a lot of momentum's in the game getting swing their way. Like I said, I want them to be ball hawks, obviously, but I know they're not going to hit 5-6 interceptions, this season, although it'd be nice. But I just want them to shut down in corners, especially on third down. Third downs, we really got blown out last year. Third down, even Welcome to the Jungle didn't help us out on third downs when they played it 18,000 times. That's going to be a big key part. As far as the safeties and the star position goes, like I said, you lose Theo Jackson. He's off to my Titans and doing a great job for them in camp. But you got two great players replacing Theo Jackson, Traven Flowers and Jalen McCullough. I really like these two guys. I think they're going to get a lot of tackles, especially the wide receivers when they break open. And I think a lot of your turnovers going our way, I think they're going to get a lot of the interceptions, Flowers and McCullough. They're burners whenever they get the ball. I really love them. Flowers and McCullough, number 1 and number 22. President Johnny in the Uh, and then the star position or the nickelback. Um, I think that's probably where Brandon Turnage is going to go. Athlon says Danico Slaughter, but I hadn't really heard much about Danico Slaughter all camp. So I think Brandon Turnage will probably get there to transfer from Alabama. I don't know if I would. Well, yeah, never mind. I was going to say maybe move Warren Burrell there, but that'd probably be even worse. Uh, what's the deal with having four place kickers? Well, I know one. I know Chase McGrath. Kind of switching over to special teams here. I know Chase McGrath is going to be your main field goal kicker. Some schools have a short distance place kicker and a long distance place kicker. That's probably what Tennessee's got. But I think Chase McGrath is going to get all your field goals. Usually have somebody like a freshman to kick off the game. So that's another place kicker. So there's three, and then another one's probably just for emergency purposes. I know Paxton Brooks, the punter, uh, kicked the ball off for us every time last year. I think he was like losing that job because he wasn't getting in the end zone. So usually that's kind of what it is. Teams just kind of have a short distance, long distance kicker, and then someone just to kick off like a freshman, and then yeah, right. So one for each quarter, pretty much. That's kind of what maybe they're going with that. So I'm trying to think of some other. We'll get to the freshmen later. What was the reasoning for Chase McGrath's transfer? I'm trying to remember. I know he came with. He was at USC also. I don't know if it had to do with playing time or if I think he got his degree and maybe just wanted a fresh start. Like I said, USC was going in the. I was in the middle of the whole Clay Helton mess up there where they were trying to house Clay Helton even a year before, but they ended up having a winning record. So maybe just kind of sort of writing on the wall. That's kind of my guess. But like I said, he came over at the same time as Bayless Jones Jr. and then Caleb Tramley, who was on the team last year, was also a USC. So that may be what the reason is. But I think Chase McGrath's a really good kicker for us. He had a really try to see if they got this numbers from last year. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Chase McGrath last year was 12 for 16 off field goals with 102 points. Pretty solid. And then Paxton Brooks will be our punter. We always have pretty solid punters for the most part, so that's not really the position to worry about. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the schedule, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the freshman stuff. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. All right, here we go. This is the official 2022 Tennessee football schedule. We begin Thursday night, September the 1st, under the lights at Neyland Stadium with the pyro and the LED light show as we welcome in the Ball State Cardinals. To me, this should be an easy win for Tennessee. Like I said, kind of similar to last year with Bowling Green. Just kind of go out there, not run a vanilla offense, but put up a good, solid showing. Like I said, you don't want to get into a shootout with Ball State. Ball State's a decent mid American Conference team. But Tennessee should have the talent and the horses to run these guys out. I expect to put 50 plus points against Ball State. I mean, not much to talk about. So just kind of go in there, nobody get hurt, have less penalty. Don't have as many penalties. Don't turn the ball over. Just go in there, put a good solid show, and get to Ball State, and then get ready for it. So Tennessee will take on Pittsburgh September the 10th at Pittsburgh. They changed the name. It's not Hinesfield anymore, but it's a different name. But anyways, like I said, Pittsburgh last year's ACC champions. They had Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison on that team. They're both gone. Kenny Pickett is, went from the blue and gold of Pittsburgh to the black and gold of Pittsburgh, the new starting quarterback for the Steelers. And then Jordan Addison, last year's Blitnikoff winner, transfers to USC. And their offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple, who was kind of the mastermind of that offense, is now the offensive coordinator at Nebraska. So there's a lot of question marks for Pittsburgh. Obviously, Pat Narduzzi, a pretty underrated coach. Like I said, I think, like I said, this is a crucial game for Tennessee. Like Brad's saying, Johnny's saying, I think Tennessee goes to Pittsburgh and gets the win. Like I said, they don't need to. They need to put up a great showing with them. I would love for them to go up there, kind of like we did with Missouri, and you know, you know, eliminate this team by halftime. But I know that's probably not going to happen. Like I said, Pittsburgh still got some pretty good players in the team, especially defensively. Pat Narduzzi's a good defensive line coach. But like I said, I think Tennessee can go up there and get the win get at Pitt. So I have Tennessee right now at 2-0. And for those who didn't know, yeah, I'm taking Tennessee to win the football. September 17th, taking on Akron. Joe Moorhead, former Mississippi State coach, is now the head coach at Akron. This team was one of the worst teams in college football last year. Tennessee should put 60 on them. Let's just be honest with you. They don't have any. This is going to be a nice tune-up game before next week. Tennessee will go 3-0 after the Akron game. September 24th, it's a big one. The Florida Gators come into town. We've talked about this on Vols Society Live for months now. Florida, the Dan Mullen era is over. Enter Billy Napier from Louisiana Lafayette. Like I said, it's been kind of a rocky offseason for Florida. Some of the fan bases, doesn't know what they're getting with Billy Napier. So they're going through the new coach transition, kind of like we did last year. There's a lot of question marks. I think Anthony Richardson, their quarterback, is really good. But yeah, this is like I said, Brad said this game will set the tone for our season. Absolutely. And I've said this many times. If any year you're going to beat Florida, this has to be the year, because if you lose to Florida this year, you got a lot of question marks. Paul says, I'll like to announce that I will be available every Saturday for the next 3 months. I hear you. Same here. Like I said, Florida's going through the new coach transition. A lot of question marks with them. Tennessee's already went through that last year. They got a more established team, a team that loves playing for their coach. You have to beat them this year. You get them at home. It's going to be a raucous crowd. Probably if not a CBS game, definitely a primetime ESPN game. So, the nation's going to be watching this game. And like I said, I think Tennessee finally defeats Florida, probably the second time since 2016. I think Tennessee goes to 4-0. And look what we got, a bye week right after Florida. And that's huge for us. So like I said, if you get this win, usually you'll probably be going on the road somewhere and maybe have a little bit of a hangover from the week before. But get this Florida win out of the way, go into the bye week, and get the excitement off from the Florida, the high from the Florida win. Then you focus on LSU. Then you go to Baton Rouge on October the 8th. This is, I have Tennessee going 4-0 going into LSU on October the 8th. This is a 50-50 game. This is a toss-up game to me. Like I said, LSU new head coach Brian Kelly comes from Notre Dame. Max Johnson probably going to be their starting quarterback. There's some question marks on LSU team. What you expect to see? I mean, they're kind of the dark horse of the SEC. I don't know what really to expect from them. I mean, I think they're going to be a solid team under first-year head coach Brian Kelly. But, like I said, I don't expect them to go shock the world and win the West either. But there's still a lot of great talent on this team. Brian Kelly has, been a long-time head coach in college football, has success at Notre Dame, took them to the playoffs, played a national championship game. It's just he never won a national championship ball at South Bend, but he's still a top 10 coach in college football. He knows how to win games. And like I said, you're going down to Death Valley, one of the toughest places to not only win a game, but even just to handle the atmosphere there. I mean, it's a raucous crowd. They're very loud. They're very into it. It's going to be a tough place to play. And Brett says, no doubt LSU is up for us. Yeah. This is, in my opinion, Brian's going to disagree with me. I think this is where our first loss is going to take place. You're going down to LSU. I think it's going to. I think it could be a close game. I could see Tennessee hanging in there in the fourth quarter. But like I said, this kind of scares me for our defensive back right here. Uh, like I said, even though the crowd noise is not going to really be a big factor for them, but like I said, just maybe overthinking some plays. Maybe LSU throws a little gizmo at them and might burn us. So I'm going to say LSU gets the win over Tennessee. Brad says Vols will win at LSU, and it could happen. Like I said, I would love for Tennessee to go 5-0 going into Alabama because you think about it. Let's just like I said, even though I picked LSU to win, let's just flip the script here for a second. Imagine Tennessee going 5-0. October the 15th, third Saturday in October. It's the official third Saturday in October this year. Alabama will definitely be in the top 10. I think Tennessee will definitely be in the top 10. Neyland Stadium, it's going to be a sold out game. College game day should be in town. No doubt about it. I know USC and Utah's playing that same day, but you have to have college game day there. Yeah, I mean that. And if you think the Ole Miss game last year was crazy, this is going to be the biggest game in Knoxville in probably 20 years. No doubt about it. But like I said, we'll see what's going to happen. I mean, that's going to be a big thing. But getting back to my predictions for Alabama, I'm going to be realistic, even though I want to see Tennessee win it. But I think Alabama will get the win there. So right now, I have Tennessee at 4-2 going into UT Martin. So after a couple of back-to-back, well, really 3 straight SEC games, and tough games to be exact, you get a bit of a break. You get homecoming October 22nd, taking on in-state foes UT Martin. This UT Martin team won 10 games last year in the FCS, so they're not really a pushover team. But like I said, Tennessee should still put up big numbers on them. I respect what UT Martin has done, but like I said, Tennessee should win this one very easily. So I have Tennessee now 5-2 going into Kentucky. October 29th, Kentucky. Last time Kentucky came to Tennessee during the COVID season, we all know what happened. It was probably one of the worst games in Tennessee football history. So now, fast forward 2 years later, Kentucky comes back into town. Last year was a close game. Tennessee won by 3 in Lexington. Now coming back to Knoxville, Kentucky has only won here in Knoxville twice since 1984. A lot of the media is picking Kentucky to finish second in the SEC East. I think that's a bunch of horse manure. I'll just say that. And Brad echoes me. I'm sick and tired of hearing about how good Kentucky is this year. We will win this game, period. I think so too. Kentucky's got a great offense. Mark Stoops has done a fine job there. Will Levis is a good quarterback. I like Chris Rodriguez as a running back. They did very well in the transfer portal, but I just don't see this team waltzing into Neyland Stadium and picking up a win. This is going to be. Thank you, Ms. Kay. She's in the chat room. So she did a good job. I think Tennessee is going to defeat Kentucky, and it could be ugly. It could be not an ugly win, but I think it could be ugly for Kentucky. Like I said, this team I could see be very motivated. Hearing about Kentucky, Kentucky's going to finish second in the East. They're gonna go back into Knoxville and beat Tennessee again. I could see this team using this as motivation, as bait, and just beating the brakes off of it. And Brad says, I hope it is ugly. Yeah, I hope it's ugly for Kentucky. I would love to. I mean, and we've seen this for the last several years since Mark Stoops has been there. We hear about Kentucky, forget the COVID season in 2020. You look at all these Kentucky teams that gets all this hot. They come into Knoxville, and what has happened? They lose with their tail between their legs. You know what I mean? I mean, even that one year they had a chance to go to the SEC championship, and that didn't happen. So I have Tennessee picking up their 6 win, which will make them bowl eligible. So they're 6. So in my opinion, they're 6-2. Now we go into November. We go back on the road for only the third time this year as we go between the hedges to take on the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Not going to break down this game too much. I know there's a lot of people in the media think that Tennessee can go into Athens and pick up a win there. I'm not really buying that just yet. I mean, this is still a very talented Georgia team. Devin Bailey is back. Kirby Smart's still got a lot of talent. I know they lost everybody on that defense in the NFL, but this is still Georgia going on the road, hostile environment. I want to see. I'll say this about Georgia and Alabama. I want to see Tennessee kind of like last year a little bit, hanging in there with them. But I want to see them really hang in there to the fourth quarter. I don't want to see another 20-point loss, a blowout loss on the road, or a 20-point blowout loss at home. I want to see them hang in there, even if it's 10 points. I will respect that in Tennessee, even if they drop this game by 10 points at Georgia or end up losing by 9 against Alabama at home. It shows progression what Josh Heupel is doing. Losing 20, 30 points is not going to progress anything. So I want to see them hang in there and be competitive and give them fits. Brad says, mark my word, I think we will play Georgia close. I think we could too. It's just the believability. But I think Georgia's going to take a win. So right now I have us at 6-2. Now this is where I think the schedule kind of gets a little bit easier. November 12th on my birthday, senior day, which I've just now noticed that. Missouri comes into town. I'm not buying this Missouri team. I'm not a big Eli Drinkowitz fan. I just don't think he's really the right fit for them. They got a lot of question marks on this team. I think Tennessee's going to put up another big blowout, ugly win over Missouri, or ugly for Missouri. It's not going to be close. I think Tennessee gets a nice big beat down win against the Missouri Tigers. So now I have us at 7-4. November 19th at South Carolina. To me, if you want to find a team in the East that's kind of a sleeper, I think it's South Carolina. You look at last year, what Shane Beaver did last year, kind of like what Josh Heupel did last year, overexceeded expectation, won their bowl game over North Carolina in the Duke Mayo Bowl, and they kind of had a very thin roster. Like I said, when we played them, we caught them at the right time when they had their quarterback went out with an injury, and there was some question marks on the offense. And we have, like I said, Brad said, we beat them down, and it was, it was over in the first quarter with 28 on the board, and it was just ugly. But this year's team is a lot better. You bring, like I said, Spencer Rattler, the former 5-star quarterback from Oklahoma, he's now the starting quarterback. Their tight end is came over. Kind of like Kentucky, they hit the transfer portal very well. We're going to learn a lot about South Carolina when we get to this game November 19th. If we were playing them in October on the road, I might consider this a loss. But, you're playing them right before Vanderbilt, and it's so late in the season that it's kind of hard to compare how they'll be. Kevin says, I think we play Bama better than last year. It could be a close game. I hope so. Like I said, get them at home this year. Like I said, just be respectful. Pratt says, I think I'm going to go to that game, the Alabama game. But going back to South Carolina here, we should learn a lot about South Carolina by this point. If South Carolina is like barely trying to get bowl eligible, or it's like, let's say 5-6 at this point, I think Tennessee can go in there and get the win. But if they've got like 7, 8 wins by this point, I'll be a little scared. But like I said, it's going to be a tough road environment. Tennessee at times has struggled at Columbia, but we've had success there. And even in recent times, last time we were down in Columbia in 2019, we came away with 2020. We came away with the win. over there. And then like I said, last year's game was a blowout. South Carolina game, I think I'm going to go. Oh yeah, because our founder Brad is in Charlotte, the right below the state line there. That'd be pretty cool to go. I think it'd be a great game. I think Tennessee will go to Columbia and beat South Carolina. I think it can be a bit of a nail biter, kind of like last year with Kentucky. I think Tennessee will pull it out in the end. And then November 26th at Vanderbilt. Yeah, poor Vanderbilt. Clark Lee says they're going to be the best team in the country. I don't think that's going to happen this year, Mr. Lee. I think Tennessee, number one, I think there's going to be 99% Tennessee fans at Vanderbilt Stadium with the very few Vanderbilt fans there. And yeah, I think it's going to be I could see it being a 59-14 game. I think Tennessee blows Vanderbilt out. So I have Tennessee finishing 9-3 on the season with trying to think of the conference record. I guess it'd be 5-3 in the SEC if I'm doing my math correct. So I have them at 9-3. I think they can get there. I think 9 wins is solid year 2 for Josh Heupel. You got the talent to win 9. You really got the talent to get double-digit wins. It's just going to come down to you're going to have to pull off an upset win. Of course, like I said, definitely either Alabama or Georgia. Even LSU, I think, can be an upset win, even if LSU has question marks. But like I said, going on the road to one of the toughest SEC environments could be good. So I have us at 9. Real quick, I'll talk about some of the freshmen. We talked about Squirrel White, talked about Chad Nimrod. Let me pick my magazine back up here. Tennessee picked up 21 players in the last year's grade. This is the 2022 class. We talked about Squirrel White. I think Elijah Herring, can be an impact freshman for us, a linebacker. Josh Nimrod, another wide receiver, a lot of praise. Dylan Sampson, between him and Squirrel White are probably the two fastest players on this team. Justin William Thomas, I think, will get some touches also at running back. Like I said, having Lynn J. Dixon now in the fold is going to be it's going to be a pretty be interesting to see where he fits in there and where the freshmen kind of go. I can see probably one of them being the redshirt, to be honest with you. Calipari, I've heard, has got some praise. One of the strongest players on the team, probably one of the top 10 athletes. So, like I said, throwing him as a freshman, at linebacker. I've heard some good stuff about Messiah Reddick on the offensive line, so we'll keep an eye on him. Christian Harrison, the son of former New England Patriot Rodney Harrison. I think he can be a key factor for us down the road. Addison Nichols, another offensive lineman. I know I'm kind of bouncing around the place. Looking at the list here, there's some guys in there that's probably going to get red shirt, maybe like a Mo Clifford Jr. Maybe Tyree West might play. I'm not sure yet. Like Brian Grant, I don't see him really starting right away. James Pierce. But like I said, this 2022 class has potential to be really good. Of course, the 2023 class is more of the praise of what's going to happen next year, especially with the detail and all that. But we're at least going to hold here. So that's the kind of the Tennessee 2022 football preview. Like I said, we're 22 days away until Tennessee plays Ball State. Like I said, what do you think Tennessee's going to finish this year? I know Brad thinks 10 wins. I think we can get up to 10 wins. I think we'll probably get into the bowl and the bowl game. As far as my floor and ceiling goes, I think the floor would probably be 7-5. Where I hope this doesn't happen, but maybe you drop to a Pittsburgh or a South Carolina or a Florida, and I hope that's not the case. But that's kind of my floor, and then the ceiling I think can be 10-2. So that 7 to 10 win range, like I said, I think 9 is definitely capable. But like I said, that's kind of what I think. As we start to wind down here, just want to remind you once again, thank you for joining us tonight. like I said, follow our social media pages, facebook.com/UT-Vols-Study. Over 12,000 of you on there. YouTube, we're closing back in on 1,000. And on Twitter, we got over 2,000 following there. So please follow our social media pages. Like I said, our brand new podcast coming in 2 weeks. Brad just topped that in. Good old Rocky Talk with our founder, Brad, myself, the other David. D is going to be joining us, and then some other surprises and guests along the way. That starts in 2 weeks on our Vols Society Network. That's going to be all over our social media pages. The inaugural episode of Good Old Rocky Talk coming aboard. Of course, Vols Society Live every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. We kind of started a little later tonight, but we'll be back to our regular schedule time at 8. Like I said, we're going to break down. Like I said, next week we'll just continue to talk about fall camp and other news and notes, and then, like I said, once the season gets going, we'll be doing our previews every Wednesday night. The podcast will be kind of doing the same thing, and then Thursday mornings for football season, we'll be kind of doing a weekend preview, talking about some big games. Charlie chimes in, says, "I will watch the replay late getting in. Good afternoon, go Vols." Yeah. Good afternoon, you sir. Yeah, like I said, definitely check it out. A lot of info today on this season we're excited about. But like I said, Thursday mornings we'll be doing a weekend preview of kind of talking not necessarily about our game for the week, but some other games that can impact our season and what else we're going to be watching out for. So like if Alabama's playing Ole Miss that week, we'll kind of briefly talk about it. It's kind of a quick drive-through episode, probably like 5 minutes, 6 minutes every Thursday morning once the season gets going, kind of like we did with the summer breakup. T-shirts. I'm wearing the Vols Society T-shirt. If you are interested, please reach out to us for our Vols Society T-shirts. I have not a whole lot, but like I said, here they are. There's the front of the shirt. Vols Society established in 2020. And then our motto on the back, not just a game, this is life, made famous by our founder, Brad. Our social media pages on the back. It's a free Thank you. Like I said, we're winding it down. Thank you for everybody tuning in tonight for our season preview show. Like I said, it'll be here before you know it. Please follow us, like I said, across our social media pages. Like I said, just thank you for your support. And like I said, continue to support us along the way. Still doing the countdown to kickoff. We'll be at 21 days tomorrow on our Facebook page and on our Twitter page too. We'll be doing that. Like I said, we're about here, folks. I'm excited about Tennessee football. Obviously, like I said, football season is around the corner. High school football gets underway in I think 8 days. In the Tennessee, here in the state of Tennessee. So that's a little taste right there. And then college football technically gets underway at the end of the month with 0 games, but then everybody gets underway Labor Day weekend. We kick off Labor Day weekend that Thursday night, the long Labor Day weekend with Tennessee Ball State, 7 o'clock on the SEC network, and should be a lot of fun. So, like I said, thank you for everybody tuning in. We'll be back here next week, talk more fall camp updates and more season previews. Like I said, this was the official preview tonight. We kind of broke it down. Hopefully, we answered some questions along the way. And thank you for everybody in the chat room tonight. And like I said, we'll talk to y'all next Wednesday night for more Vols Society Live. Until then, have a great night and go Vols. Let's try to get to it now. Go Vols.